Hello again, and welcome to this mindfulness video on behalf of the Stuart Low Trust. My name is Katie. Thank you for joining me today. So just before I begin, just to remind you, if you haven't done already, to watch the previous 3 videos that I've done for the Stuart Low Trust. So the first one is the Introduction to Mindfulness video. The second one is the More About Mindfulness video, which includes the frequently asked questions. And the last video that I did was about the without judgment part of mindfulness. So it will give you a more kind of rounded view of mindfulness if you watch those first. So today we are going to be talking about mindfulness and the body. So I'd like you just to think about, when was the last time you thought about maybe the toes on your left foot, or your right knee, or your left eye, anywhere you don't have any problems in your body, and just to illustrate that actually, unless we have a problem and we have pain or discomfort in an area of our body that is not working as well as it could be, we don't tend to notice our bodies. We tend to be quite caught up in our thoughts and our emotions, and we don't tend to pay that much attention to our bodies. We forget sometimes to listen to our bodies and the messages that they are sending us all the time. So for example, a lot of people, and myself included, hold a lot of tension in their shoulders and neck as a reaction to stress or whatever. And we tend not to notice that tension until we get pain as a result of that tension. So, and that is like our body sending us a message that something needs to change here, you need to relax those muscles. And the good thing about mindfulness is that if you practice paying attention to your body, then it doesn't have to shout quite so loudly to get your attention, because you're really paying attention to the subtle things that might be changing. So yeah, a lot of us will spend a lot of time not really thinking about all the things that are working in our bodies, and we tend to only notice when they go wrong. So for instance, we don't really think about our teeth until we get toothache, and then we can't really think about anything else. And then, you know, all we do is think about, oh, please let the toothache go. And then when it does, we get used to it not being there and we take it for granted again. And that's part of our humanness, our ability to adjust to situations and get used to things. And we do tend to take things for granted if there isn't a problem. And that's partly because as human beings we are programmed to problem solve. We're very good at problem solving. So we kind of tend to be a lot more tuned into problems, because then that's something that we should fix, rather than something which is no problem and is all going perfectly well. Then we don't tend to notice it so much. So our bodies tend to be talking to us all the time, and we need to listen to them really, because our body and our mind are so closely linked, that whatever is going on in our mind, it tends to get translated into our body. So when we're anxious or stressed, that will have a direct impact on how you feel in your body. So mindfulness is again just noticing that, and the more we notice it, the more we can let it go without judgment. So what tends to happen is when we get pain, our bodies tense as a reaction to the pain, and that is a kind of natural reaction that we want to protect that area that is in pain to prevent it getting harmed more. Which is, again, a really helpful reaction. The problem is when it's something like chronic pain, if you have tension around the pain, it can actually increase that pain. So if we approach this from an angle of mindfulness, we would notice the extra layer of tension and suffering that we are adding to our pain. And by noticing it, we can begin to let it be and allow it, and then we can allow it to let go. Which sounds so simple, but it's not easy, especially with something like chronic pain, because it's natural to want to push those feelings that we experience as very unpleasant and very uncomfortable. It's natural to want to push them away. But again, just like emotional pain, the more we push physical pain away and tighten against it and fight it, the more our pain is likely to increase, because we are adding those layers of suffering onto what is already happening to us. So Buddhists, the way that Buddhists put this is talking about the second arrow of suffering. So the first arrow of suffering is what happens to us. So in this case, that would be the physical pain. That's the first arrow. The second arrow of suffering would be what we add to that pain. So it would be our reaction, our tension, our fighting, our whatever emotional reaction we have, understandable emotional reaction we have to that pain. So mindfulness is really noticing what we're adding to it and beginning to let it go. So it's also about kind of making friends with your body. And again, this relates to what we were talking about compassion and kindness. Making friends with your mind and your body. And just, accepting that it is doing its best. It may be trying to protect you from something. And just trying as best you can to breathe with what is happening in your body and your mind, and to kind of take a step back from it to a certain extent. As John Kabat-Zinn, who is one of probably the person that brought mindfulness into mainstream medicine in the late 70s, he said, as long as you're still breathing, there is more right with you than there is wrong with you. So, mindfulness is very gentle, and it doesn't focus on what is right with you, and that actually he would say that we're already whole. We're with a WHOLE. We're already whole as people. Even we may have scars and pain and illness, and what we do with mindfulness is to be kind to ourselves. And that can really have an impact on our levels of suffering. We can't change what happens to us. We can't change, we might have something wrong with our body at some point, but we can be more attuned to it, and we can also react in a way that will make healing more likely. And I say this from the point of view, I think I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, of someone who had suffered from chronic illness for a number of years when I was younger, and mindfulness really helped me in my recovery, and yeah, it really made a big difference to me to be able to work with my body rather than against it, and with whatever symptoms were coming up. So there's also the point of view of in our culture, in our Western culture, we are taught really not to like our bodies very much. We are taught that we should be a certain shape or a certain weight, that we should aspire to have no wrinkles, and all these, very clever marketing ploys which work because it's a huge industry. And it's kind of discontent with our bodies. It makes money, and it's a marketing man's dream. So accepting our body to a certain extent, and to again make friends with it, to accept the things we can't change about it, is actually quite an act of rebellion in our culture, a very strong act of rebellion. So yeah, that's another part of mindfulness, is kind of accepting our bodies and learning to love them, even when they don't look the way we might want them to, or they don't feel the way we might want them to. So just a word about how amazing our bodies are, really. All the things that we don't think about and we take for granted. And for me, this is something that I've tried not to lose, because when I recovered from being ill, the world was a very, very exciting place for me, in that I could do all these things that I couldn't do before, because I had a lot more energy and I wasn't in pain, and you know, I just felt a lot healthier. And it was like a revelation to me that people weren't incredibly happy when they were healthy. And I've tried not to kind of take my health for granted ever since, and to appreciate every moment of health that I get. And yeah, I sometimes forget because again, I'm only human, but it has stayed with me, that appreciation for, you know, being able to walk down the street, which is something that I couldn't do very well before, and all sorts of things like that. So I'd just like to read you this quote from that's my cat in the background. We're going to accept. I'm just going to have to go and let her out. Hold on. Apologies for that. So I'm going to leave that in this video, I think, because this is all about working with what we have. And one of the things that I have is a very loud cat. So just to think about, it is quite distracting, but we'll carry on. Just to think about the kind of miracle of our bodies, when it, you know, all the things that work well in our bodies without us having to think about it. For example, all our internal organs, our breathing just happens, you know, we've all been sitting here breathing without having to make any effort. And, you know, all of our senses as well. So our senses are very important in mindfulness, and coming to our senses is very important. And that has obviously a double meaning, because it means actually being aware of your senses, and to waking up, because mindfulness is kind of falling awake to the present moment. And our senses are also very important because you can't hear yesterday or see tomorrow. Our senses can really help to bring us back to the present moment. So they're, you know, it's a good idea to focus on them when you're practicing mindfulness. And just to notice what a miracle it is to be able to see and hear and taste and touch and smell, and all these things that we take for granted on a daily basis. So Alan Watts, my favourite philosopher, he once said, "Every one of us is marvellous and complicated and interesting and gorgeous, just as we are. Really take a look into another person's eyes. They are jewellery beyond compare, just beautiful." And I like that, the kind of noticing something that we don't really notice. We might look into someone's eyes and we wouldn't really notice how intricate and beautiful they are. And we can do this for ourselves as well when we look in the mirror, just to really accept and appreciate how unique and beautiful we are, every one of us. So I think what we'll do is I'd like to do some practice. I think the ideas that we've been talking about today are quite straightforward. So I'd like us to focus more on the practice. So we're going to do a body scan, which is one of the kind of staple mindfulness practices. So just getting yourself as comfortable as possible, and just allowing your eyes to close if that feels comfortable to you. Or if you prefer, just lowering your gaze to the floor. And just bringing your awareness to your body, resting on the support of the chair or the mat or the bed. Being fully supported. And just taking a few moments to notice the gentle, natural rhythm of your breathing. The gentle rise and fall of your stomach and chest. Rising gently as you breathe in, falling gently as you breathe out. And just breathing as best you can with whatever comes and goes, your body and your mind, from moment to moment. As best you can without pushing anything away, without clinging on to anything. Just breathing with gentleness and curiosity in each moment. And just shifting the focus of your attention to your feet. Noticing your toes, the soles and tops of your feet, and your heels. And noticing any sensations that come and go in your feet. And maybe taking a moment to appreciate all the work that your feet do without you having to think about it. And just taking a gentle breath in. And as you breathe out in your own time, just allowing all the muscles in your feet to soften and relax. And bringing your awareness to your legs, Noticing your lower legs, your knees, all the way up your thighs to your hips. And noticing any sensations that come and go in your legs. And taking a gentle breath in. On the out breath, just allowing the muscles in your legs to soften and relax. And bringing your awareness to your back, your lower back, all the way up your spine, into your shoulder blades. And just noticing what you notice and any sensations that come and go. And taking a gentle breath in. On the out breath, just allowing all the muscles in your back to soften and relax. And bringing your awareness round to your stomach and your chest. And noticing once again the feeling of your breathing. And maybe taking a moment to appreciate your lungs and all your internal organs that are working to keep you alive and to keep everything in harmony in your body. And just taking a gentle breath in. And as you breathe out, just allowing all the muscles in your stomach and your chest to soften and relax. And bringing your awareness to your arms, from your shoulders down through your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, and all the way down to the fingertips of your hands. Just becoming aware of any sensations that come and go in your arms and your hands from moment to moment. And maybe taking a moment of gratitude for your arms and your hands and your sense of touch. And taking a gentle breath in on the out breath, just allowing all the muscles in your arms and your hands to soften and relax. And bringing your awareness to the tops of your shoulders and your neck. And just breathing gently with whatever sensations you find there. And taking a gentle breath in. And as you breathe out in your own time, just allowing all the muscles in the tops of your shoulders and your neck to soften and relax. And just bringing your awareness to your scalp, to the muscles on your scalp, and down through your forehead, your eyelids, your temples, your cheeks, and your jaw. And taking a moment perhaps to appreciate being able to talk and listen, to think and see and smell and taste. And just taking a gentle breath in. And as you breathe out, just allowing all the muscles in your scalp and your face to soften and relax. And just breathing with your whole body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Breathing with any sensations that come and go from moment to moment. And listening to your body, cultivating an attitude of gentleness and curiosity. Letting be and letting go. Returning your awareness to your breathing, just for a few moments, reconnecting with your breath. And when you're ready, you can begin to open your eyes. You might like to have a stretch, a gentle stretch. And just sitting quietly for a few minutes, extending your awareness outwards to your surroundings once more. So I'd like to read you a couple of things before I go. One is a kind of Zen joke that I'm quite fond of, and it goes like this. One Zen student said, "My teacher is the best. He can go days without eating." The second said, "My teacher has so much self-control, he can go days without sleep." The third said, "My teacher is so wise that he eats when he's hungry and he sleeps when he's tired." I like that because it kind of illustrates what we were saying about listening to our body and being in touch with it. And I guess it kind of relates to not trying too hard to be a certain way. So that's quite nice. I also wanted to say thank you for joining me in these videos. I hope you have enjoyed them as well. And just a reminder to subscribe to the Stuart Low Trust YouTube channel, and also to check out SLT's website. So that's slt.org.uk. You'll find lots of information about how SLT is helping people during these difficult times. And I hope to do some live workshops with you soon. Before I go, I'd like to read you, this doesn't specifically relate to what we've been talking about today, but it's a blessing actually. It's an Irish blessing from a poet called John O'Donoghue. And it's my way of wishing you well, because I'm really missing participants and staff and volunteers at the Stuart Low Trust. We are kind of one big family, so this is my blessing to you. So it's called Blessing, but there is an Irish name for it which I won't attempt to pronounce. It's spelled Beannacht. So this is Blessing. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the grey window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colours, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken in you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the colour of thought, and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. May the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. That is from me to you. Thanks again for joining me. I hope to see you soon. Thank you.